Okay, so it's Saturday the 5th, and unfortunately, my trading this week does not really make for good content. I'm going to quickly run through my trades for this week. My first trade that I took this week was on Monday, and every single trade was taken on Antarctic. I didn't do any trading when I was not home, which is, another excuse that I can't use. I was home for all these trades that I took. So this was the last trade that I took for last week's episode. I don't know if I showed the final P&L for it, but there it is. And so this is the first trade that I took this week, and it was a $3.65 loss. Next, I entered this long. It ended up, being a slight winner, but if I remember correctly, I think I TP'd either around this high or this high. And honestly, in hindsight, I should have just taken the exit signal once we started failing above this high, and I should have exited my long completely and probably even entered a short as well, because that would have been a pretty decent trade. But I only ended up hitting one TP on that and got stopped at entry, so plus $2. Then shortly after, on Tuesday, I guess I did a lot of trading. I took 3 trades along that went against me and then gave short confirmations, which I, for some reason, decided to enter 2 trades on. So, I see what I did. I entered on the first break, and then I entered again on the second break, really thinking that we would see a further move down since we were now starting to lose support. And I can't remember how these trades went, but I ended up getting stopped out of both of them for a loss. So that would be these 3 trades right here, the long and then the 2 shorts, and they all ended up being losses. Even though I was at one point, granted very briefly, but I was up 3-1 on my first short idea. And my second trade, I was only up at 2-1, so there was no way I was taking profit on that, really. This one, I could have taken profit if I had a limit order there, but I didn't. Unfortunately, there really wasn't any good long trades unless you were taking, like, the larger range break. But, we then got a very aggressive pump, and I was not in it. It kind of got faked out there. We started to lose support, but really we just ended up, kind of SFPing lower and lower, eventually started ranging, and then broke upwards and, really got some follow through. And there were ways I could have longed this on the way up. It's just I was not super confident in taking, lower probability scalps after I just took a bunch of losses. Well, this one was a win, but just barely. So, I kind of lost my scalping confidence for the day because I didn't take any more trades until Thursday, where I entered a short around 109.850, and that would be this one right here, and another scalp trade that ended up being a loser. At this point, I was like, all right, I'm done with the scalping. It's kind of, obviously not the greatest environment to be taking the kind of trades that I'm trying to take. And so my mind state was pretty much, all right, let's just wait until I see a really good trade. A trade where, a lot of different things are pointing to one conclusion, and I have, a good enough setup to try and capitalize on that. And that's what I attempted to do with my last trade of this week, which actually ended up being my biggest loss. I think maybe of the challenge, but definitely at least of this week. So I entered this one with a 2% risk. And, I think my main criticisms of this trade are, I kind of failed to recognize that, hey, there is a possibility that maybe this first support box that I have drawn up doesn't hold. Maybe we come for some deeper supports that we left behind that we didn't hit prior to breaking above this high. Because, even if you have a setup where, you have a range break, you have some bullish signs at the low, and then price back tests the range, and there's a bullish setup there. Even if things really start lining up and it looks like, you have all the reason in the world to get a move up to the next logical resistance, you can't always assume that the first bullish setup is going to be the one that brings you to that area, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And rather than, recognizing that and saying, okay, well, maybe this idea doesn't work, I should maybe be trying to actively de-risk it, I instead just decided to leave my stop loss below my support area, which eventually got tagged out. And, I could have technically closed out my trade somewhere in this candle. I was there during the time I watched that candle happen. And I actually ended up getting stopped out, I think, with this candle. And I think I might have filled a little bit lower than where my stop loss was, because I did take more of a loss than I intended to. Also, probably fees affected that as well. That was meant to be a 2% risk, which I think was, $4.8 times 2. So, it was supposed to be $9.6 risk. And that was it for the week. Pretty poor. Not really great content, but, I want to run over every trade that I take, even when I have a bad trading week. And unless I'm able to turn this around in the next, day and a half here, and I mean, I am looking at some range trades to potentially make back some of my losses, hopefully even get myself back in the green if I'm able to take a good enough trade. But as of right now, this is the results. So I'm down just under 40 bucks. So that's pretty bad there. Now I think some of that was from unrealized profit from my last trade. I mean, I'm down 40 bucks from where I was. So now I'm going to be, basing my risk off of this size. I'm going to be risking $4.7 on 1%ers.